They thought walking away from you would break you. They believed that turning their back was the final move. The one that would leave you in pieces. What they didn't realize was that the moment they walked out, they didn't just lose you. They lost your protection. They lost the safe space you gave them. And once that door closed, they were no longer shielded from the storms of life. Betrayal is a strange thing. In the moment, it feels like a knife in the back, sharp, unexpected, and deeply personal. But here's the truth. Betrayal is often the spark that ignites transformation. It's the turning point where the person you were begins to fade. And a new version of you starts to take shape, stronger, wiser, and unshakable. This isn't just about getting over it. It's about rising from it. It's about taking the pain they handed you and turning it into a power they never saw coming. And today, we're going to talk about exactly how that happens, through the lens of Stoic philosophy, emotional intelligence, and the quiet kind of strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. Because you don't need revenge to win. You don't need to fight to prove yourself. The real victory is becoming someone they can't reach anymore, not because you're hiding, but because you've outgrown the battlefield entirely. The deepest cuts don't come from strangers. They come from the people you once held closest, the ones you trusted with your heart, your secrets, your loyalty. And that's why betrayal stings in a way nothing else does. It's not just about what they did, it's about what it made you question your worth, your ability to judge character, even the meaning of love and loyalty. When someone you trust turns on you, it shakes the very ground you stand on. You start replaying every moment, wondering, was I blind? Did I miss the signs? Was I not enough? But here's the truth most people never tell you. You weren't naive. You were genuine. You gave someone a sacred place in your life, and they failed to honor it. The failure wasn't yours, it was theirs. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. In other words, the betrayal itself doesn't define you. The story you tell yourself about it does. You have a choice. You can let the pain break you, turn you bitter, closed off, afraid to trust again, or you can let it forge you deeper, wiser, sharper than you've ever been. That's the choice the Stoics made. They didn't waste energy seeking revenge. They didn't beg for closure. They used the pain as raw material, shaping themselves into someone who could never be touched in the same way again. Think about it. What if this moment of betrayal wasn't the end of your story, but the beginning of your evolution? What if the wound you carry right now could become the very place your greatest strength grows from? Because that's the hidden truth of betrayal. It doesn't just take something from you. It offers you something in return. The question is, will you take it? Strong people react differently to betrayal. They don't beg for explanations. They don't chase after the ones who walked away. And they don't plot revenge in the middle of the night. Instead, they go quiet, not because they're weak, but because they've decided their dignity is worth more than the noise. Silence, in this sense, is not emptiness, it's strategy. It's the decision to stop pouring energy into someone who's already shown they can't be trusted with it. It's stepping back, not to hide, but to heal. A strong person takes the pain and uses it as fuel. They turn the ache in their chest into the drive to rebuild their life. Every workout, every late night spent learning something new, every step toward a goal. That's the transformation happening in the shadows. And here's the thing. Those who betrayed them rarely see it coming. The Stoics understood this well. They knew the greatest power wasn't found in physical strength or outward displays of dominance. It was in self-mastery. The ability to control your emotions, your impulses, your need to respond to every insult. That's where the real strength lies. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can post angry messages or try to humiliate the person who hurt them. But it takes real discipline to say, I won't give you any more of me. That kind of restraint isn't weakness. It's a declaration of independence. It says, I am no longer part of your chaos. I am no longer a character in your story. I choose my peace over your drama. And the beauty of this approach? It changes you in ways retaliation never could. You stop living in reaction to someone else's behavior and start living in alignment with your own values. You realize that every ounce of energy you would have spent fighting them is now being invested in building yourself. So, the next time you feel the urge to explain, defend, or strike back, ask yourself, will this action restore my peace, or will it restart the cycle? Strong people choose peace. They let their silence speak for them. And in that silence, they become untouchable. Let's talk about the psychology of the betrayer, because understanding it changes everything. Betrayal doesn't always come from hate. More often, it comes from fear. Fear of your growth. Fear of the boundaries you've started to set. Fear of the stability you've built for yourself. You see, the moment you stop being easy to control, you become a threat to someone who thrives on keeping others small. Some people are addicted to chaos. They feel most alive in the middle of drama, manipulation, and emotional dependence. And when you start breaking free from that cycle, when you begin to think for yourself, speak for yourself, and refuse to play their games, it terrifies them. Not because you've hurt them, but because your transformation is holding up a mirror they can't stand to look into. That mirror reflects everything they don't want to face: their insecurity, their lack of self-control, their fear of change. And instead of confronting those truths, they do the easier thing. They sabotage. They gossip. They twist the story so you become the villain in other people's eyes. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. What they did is a reflection of their character, not a measure of your worth. You could have been the most loyal, generous, and supportive person in their life, and they still would have walked away or turned on you. Why? Because betrayal is about who they are, not about what you lacked. Think about it this way. If you were stable in a world addicted to chaos, you would be a threat. If you were consistent in a world built on inconsistency, you would make unstable people uncomfortable. You didn't cause their betrayal. They were simply incapable of valuing what was real. The Stoics remind us of this. When someone acts poorly, it's because they've judged it to be right in their own mind. It's not your job to rewrite their thinking or change their values. Your only responsibility is to protect your peace, maintain your integrity, and keep growing, no matter how they try to pull you back. So the next time you're tempted to ask, "Why did they do this to me?" remember, the answer has less to do with you, and everything to do with the battles they're too afraid to fight within themselves. Silence. It's one of the most underestimated forms of power you will ever have. When you go silent with a manipulative person, something incredible happens. They lose control. Because control requires access, and access requires your reaction. Without your words, without your energy, without the emotional fuel they've been feeding on, their grip starts to slip. Think about it. Manipulators thrive on twisting your responses, taking your words out of context, baiting you into emotional outbursts so they can say, "See, you're the problem." But when you say nothing, there's nothing to twist. There's nothing to use against you. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them." Silence is how you protect your interpretation. You're no longer letting them plant their chaos into your mind. You're not giving them the chance to rewrite your truth. And here's what most people get wrong. Silence isn't punishment. It's not about making them wonder what you're thinking or trying to hurt them back. Silence is a boundary. It's you saying, "You no longer have the right to my voice. You no longer get to pull me into your storm." This kind of silence is active, not passive. It's a conscious choice to step out of the game entirely. You stop trying to win arguments that aren't worth winning. You stop defending yourself to people who have no intention of understanding you. You refuse to fight battles where victory comes at the cost of your peace. And yes, it can feel uncomfortable at first. Your ego will want to clap back. Your pride will want to set the record straight. But the moment you resist that pull, you'll feel it, that deep, unshakable calm that comes when you realize you don't need to respond to be in control. Because real control isn't about having the last word. It's about having the discipline to know when no word at all is the most powerful move you can make. Let's clear something up. Karma, in the Stoic sense, isn't magic. It's not some invisible cosmic judge waiting to strike at just the right moment. It's cause and effect. You plant a seed, and in time, you harvest whatever grows from it. Every action, every lie, every betrayal, every act of loyalty plants something. And those seeds don't disappear just because no one's watching. They grow, slowly, quietly, inevitably. Seneca once said, "Every guilty person is his own hangman." That's not poetic exaggeration, it's human psychology. People who harm others carry the weight of what they've done, even if they never admit it. Guilt, shame, and fear are corrosive. They eat away at peace from the inside out. So, what happens to the betrayer? It doesn't look like lightning striking from the sky. It's slower, more surgical. First, their reputation starts to crack. The people who once believed their stories begin to see patterns. They notice the inconsistencies. They remember the lies. Trust erodes, not because you exposed them, but because truth has a way of revealing itself over time. Then relationships start to crumble. Friends distance themselves. Opportunities dry up. They bounce from one situation to the next, always blaming someone else, never seeing that the chaos follows them because they're the source of it. It's not punishment, it's consequence. You can't poison the soil you live in without eventually breathing the toxins yourself. And here's the beauty of the Stoic approach: you don't have to make any of this happen. It's not your job to chase justice or watch for payback. Life handles that. Your role is to step out of the blast radius, keep your own soil clean, and focus on planting better seeds in your own life. Because in the end, their collapse will come not from what you do, but from what they've done. And by the time it happens, you'll be so far removed, so deeply rooted in your own growth, that you won't even be watching. There's a shift that happens when you stop seeing yourself as the victim and start living like the victor. Losing the person who betrayed you might feel devastating at first, but over time, you realize it was never really a loss. It was a release. You didn't just lose them, you lost the chaos they brought into your life. You lost the constant tension, the second guessing, the feeling of walking on eggshells. And in its place, you gained space for peace, clarity, and growth. The freedom that follows is hard to describe. You start sleeping better. You start breathing easier. You notice your energy returning. And little by little, you become yourself again. Not the version of you that was constantly trying to survive in their storm, but the version that stands firmly in the sunlight. This is where the real justice happens. Not in revenge, not in proving them wrong. The real justice is in becoming the person they never thought you could be: calm, grounded, thriving. Every goal you reach, every step forward, every laugh you share with people who value you, that's the kind of justice no court or karma could deliver. The Stoics would tell you this: your peace is the proof. You don't need a grand announcement. You don't need to send them a message saying, "Look at me now." The fact that you've rebuilt, and done it without them, is all the evidence the world needs. And here's the thing: when you reach this point, their opinion stops mattering entirely. You no longer need their acknowledgement, their apology, or their understanding. You're not interested in their validation. You're too busy living a life that's so rich, so full, that their absence doesn't even register anymore. That's the moment you know you've won, not because they've lost, but because you've truly outgrown the need for them to lose in order for you to feel whole. Let's be honest, revenge can feel tempting in the heat of betrayal. You picture the perfect moment they feel the same pain they gave you. You imagine the words you'd say, the look on their face when they realize they lost you. And for a second, it feels satisfying. But here's the problem with revenge: it's expensive not in money, but in the only currency that truly matters: your peace. The high is short-lived, the moment passes, and all you're left with is the mess that comes from staying connected to the very person who hurt you. Revenge keeps you tethered. It ties your healing to their downfall. And that means your freedom is delayed until they get what's coming to them. But what if they never do? At least not in the way you expect. Will you keep waiting? Will you keep letting their shadow hover over your life? There's a better way, and I've seen it play out in real life. A woman I know found out her partner had been cheating, not just once, but over and over, with different people. Her entire world collapsed overnight. And do you know what she did? She didn't scream. She didn't post angry rants online. She didn't try to expose him. She packed her things in silence and left. No revenge, no gossip, no dramatic exit. 6 months later, she was unrecognizable, in the best way. She had a new job, a healthier body, a peaceful home, and a light in her eyes that had been gone for years. Meanwhile, her ex was alone, struggling, and still spinning stories to anyone who would listen. Her silence did more damage than 1,000 angry texts ever could, because here's the truth: walking away and rebuilding is the ultimate form of power. You don't need to destroy them. You don't need to win the breakup. The moment you stop investing energy into someone who drained you is the moment you win. The Stoics understood this. They believed that chasing revenge puts you right back in the mud with the person who wronged you. And why would you go back there when you've already climbed out? Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Not because you're weak, but because you finally realize that protecting your peace is worth more than proving your point. The ultimate Stoic principle is deceptively simple, but it changes everything. Control what's inside. Let go of what's outside. That means your thoughts, your choices, your reactions, they're yours. The way other people act, what they say, the decisions they make, that's theirs. And the moment you stop trying to manage the things you were never meant to control, you free yourself from a lifetime of unnecessary frustration. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Think about that for a moment. How much time have you spent replaying someone else's actions in your head? How often have you burned energy trying to make someone see your point of view? Or wishing they would behave differently? The Stoics would tell you, that's wasted life. Your mind is the only territory you truly own. That's where your freedom lives. And here's the part people often misunderstand. Indifference is not weakness. It's not apathy, it's clarity. Indifference says, I will no longer allow myself to be emotionally hijacked by people who thrive on chaos. I see what you're doing. I understand the game, and I choose not to play. Imagine being able to look at a situation that once would have consumed you. And instead of spiraling into anger or anxiety, you simply let it pass. That's not because you don't care, it's because you've decided your peace is too valuable to spend on things you can't change. This kind of strength is quiet, but it's unshakable. It's the ability to walk through life knowing that storms will come. People will disappoint you, and plans will fall apart, but none of it can destroy you unless you hand over the keys to your own mind. The ultimate Stoic power isn't in winning arguments or proving your worth. It's in staying centered when the world around you is spinning. And once you master that, you become the kind of person no betrayal, no chaos, and no manipulator can touch. Every time you draw a boundary, you reclaim a piece of your dignity. Every time you choose silence over an argument, you take another step back into your own power. Dignity isn't something other people give you, it's something you choose to protect. And often, the first step is realizing you don't need their approval to feel whole. You don't need to be right in their eyes to have peace in your own. There's a deep freedom that comes when you stop trying to win the crowd. Stop performing for the people who misunderstood you. And stop chasing validation from those who were never rooting for you in the first place. Because the moment you do, you shift from living as the hurt one to living as the whole one. That's growth. It's when you stop playing the victim in their story and start becoming the main character in your own. It's when you no longer waste your energy explaining your worth to people who are committed to undervaluing you. The Stoics knew that calmness is power, self-control is strength, and right thinking is mastery. When you embrace that, dignity becomes your armor. You don't need to shout to prove you're strong. You don't need to retaliate to prove you're unbreakable. Your restraint becomes your statement. Picture this. You're in a conversation where someone is baiting you, twisting your words, and trying to get a reaction. The old you might have argued until your voice went hoarse. But now, you simply smile, walk away, and keep your peace. That's not weakness. That's evolution. Because here's the truth. When you truly value your dignity, you become harder to provoke, harder to manipulate, and harder to break. And in that state, you don't just survive betrayal, you rise from it untouchable. They almost always come back, maybe not today, maybe not next week, but eventually, when the silence grows too loud and the reality of losing their grip on you sinks in. They'll circle back. Here's the truth. They're not coming back because they suddenly realized they love you. They're coming back because they lost access to their emotional supply. To them, you weren't just a person, you were a source of validation, attention, and control. And when that source runs dry, they start to panic. Manipulators feed on reactions, your tears, your anger, your need to defend yourself. It all made them feel powerful. But when you go silent, when you stay gone, you take away the one thing they crave most: influence over your emotions. Without it, they're left with nothing but themselves, and that's a place they don't like to be. And this is where your growth changes everything. The person you are now is not the person they betrayed. You've rebuilt, you've healed, you've learned your worth, you've set boundaries they can't cross. In a very real sense, you are the closure. When they do reach out, whether it's a "just thinking about you" text, a fake apology, or a casual comment meant to test the waters, you won't feel the same pull you once did. There's no spark of hope, no curiosity, no urge to respond. Instead, there's a calm certainty. There's nothing left to return to. That's when you realize the real power of your silence. It's not a tactic, it's a transformation. And the panic they feel? It's not because they lost you. It's because they lost their power over you. The Stoics would remind you, once you've reclaimed your mind, no one can chain you with the same tricks again. You've closed the door, not with anger, but with the kind of peace that makes it clear. This chapter is over. This story is done, and I'm not coming back. In the end, your silence, your peace, and your success will always be the heaviest weight they have to carry. You don't need to hunt them down with receipts. You don't need to expose them to the world. And you certainly don't need to burn yourself out trying to make them understand. All you need to do is keep building, keep growing, keep becoming the person they never imagined you could be. Because here's the truth, when you rise, they see it, even if they pretend not to. Even if they never say it out loud. They feel it in the quiet moments. They know exactly what they lost. And the more you thrive without them, the sharper that truth becomes. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That's not about pretending it never happened, it's about refusing to let their darkness dim your light. Being untouchable doesn't mean you've built walls out of bitterness. It means you've built a life so full, so aligned, and so grounded that no betrayal can shake it. Being unbothered doesn't mean you don't care, it means you've chosen to care about better things. And being whole doesn't mean you never felt the pain. It means you've healed in such a way that the wound no longer defines you. So let your life be the answer, not your arguments. Not your anger, your life. Your choices, your peace, your joy. That's the language they'll understand, even if they never admit it. And when they look back, they won't just remember the day they lost you. They'll remember that from that moment on, they never had access to you again. You became someone they could no longer touch, no longer control, no longer even reach. That's the real victory, not proving them wrong, but becoming so right within yourself that their opinion no longer matters. So walk forward untouchable, unbothered, whole, and let the life you're building be the loudest statement you'll ever make.